In this section, we're going to explore images and votes in notifications. We're going to start with an overview of Firebase Cloud Storage. Then we're going to see a hands-on example where we upload an image to Firebase. We're going to discuss an overview of notification buttons and what a pending intent is. And then we're going to have a hands-on example where we allow up and down votes in a notification. And we're going to have an example where we show a notification when a certain event happens. Let's get started with an overview of Firebase Cloud Storage. First, we're going to discuss what is cloud storage. Then we'll talk about two new classes we're going to need to know for cloud storage, which is storage reference and upload task. We'll take a look at anonymous inner classes, and then we'll take a look at how to get a URL or universal resource indicator, or locator if you prefer, that describes an asset that we have uploaded to the cloud. First of all, what is cloud storage? We've seen the Firebase database, and that's essentially handling JSON data, so text-only data. But a lot of times we want to upload an image or maybe some kind of attachment and associate it with a database record. So that's where cloud storage comes in, because it allows us to upload images and store them into a virtual file system on the cloud. And then once we've stored it, we have a link to that asset, and if we want, we can take that link and we can put it back into our Firebase database to make a virtual link between the two. We'll get through part of that in this section. So here we take the picture, we click the button, upload picture to Firebase. Now, a few new classes we're going to need to know. There's a new class called storage reference, which is similar to database reference. If you remember database reference, it allowed us to get a reference to a certain area within the Firebase database. Similar for storage reference, it's allowing us to get a reference to a certain, essentially, directory within the cloud storage area. Now, we can invoke a child method on this storage reference, and that will accept a path and return another storage reference object. So you see here we have our storage reference. We get that. We invoke child, and that gives us a little child storage reference. There we go. So we can invoke put file, put bytes, or put stream on that child storage reference to upload a file, and that will return an upload task. So essentially, we're telling the storage reference, I want to take this, let's say URI, that identifies an image on my device, and I want to upload that. So we pass that off to our storage reference, and that's going to hand us back an upload task, which we can use to manage the process. So the upload task says, okay, we are ready to upload the image to cloud storage, and then we get, hopefully, an on-success result, which we'll hear through our on-success listener. So this upload task, we can attach some listeners to it to notify us when certain events have happened. If the file was uploaded successfully, if there was a failure, and several other lifecycle events. At the very basics, you should at least implement the on-success and on-failure listeners, which we'll do in code in our example in the very next video. Now, putting this together requires a series of anonymous inner classes, and I just want to do a little refresher on that because it can get confusing, especially the way we're going to do it, the way we have to do it, and that is we're going to end up with an anonymous inner class inside of an anonymous inner class. So if we take a look, let's identify the parts here. We have public class foo, open curly, and its match and close curly at the bottom, a traditional class. Within that, we are declaring a new class called bar, which extends a class called baz, open and close curly, and inside of this we could have things like methods and anything that a normal class would have. So that's a named inner class because we're giving it a name here. Now, an anonymous inner class is when we define a class at the same time we are instantiating an object out of that class, and it's a little bit tricky. It's frequently used if we need to create an object and immediately pass it to a method call like we have here. So here I have an onClick method, and inside of this I'm declaring an anonymous inner class. This class will extend from or implement, if it's an interface, this word right here, onClick listener. This onClick listener, let's say it's an interface, I've kind of made it up a little bit. So we're declaring a class which is going to implement this interface. And then we have the open curly and close curly of the anonymous inner class that we're creating. Inside of this, we are overriding the handle event method, which is defined on the onClick listener interface. And then we have an open and close curly where we can put any kind of definition that we want. What gets a little bit tricky is when you see all of these parens and curlies all together, you just kind of have to be sure to keep them together here. So here we have open paren and close paren, which indicates a method call. The new operator means we are creating an object out of this anonymous inner class here, and we're passing it into this method call. So onClickListener is essentially a constructor, an indication of a constructor, and then open curly, close curly defines that class. So remember those, and the easiest one to forget is the semicolon that terminates this line. It's easy to forget that, or maybe think that you have something extra here and delete it. Really, best bet is to try to follow the IDE because it will try and help you out. And again, we'll see this in an example upcoming. We get our storage reference, we get the child storage reference. From that, we get the upload task. For the upload task, we implement an odd failure listener and an on success listener. In the on success listener, that means the file has been uploaded. That is going to return to us something called a task snapshot. From that task snapshot, we can get something called a download URL task, which is where we basically say, hey, can you tell me the URI of that file that I just uploaded? If it's depending on the access rules, you can put that URI directly in a browser and see that asset. The thing that's confusing here is we're already within an on-success listener, which is an anonymous inner class. Inside of that, we're declaring yet another. So I'll forewarn you when we get to the example, you'll see a lot of nesting. I wouldn't normally do that, and I certainly wouldn't nest or make it very big. So maybe some opportunities for refactoring, but nonetheless, for our example, this will work quite well for us.